Better put my audio on. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on your deep dive today. As always, excuse me. A little bit of an honor, isn't it, that I get to fill in for the lovely Bon. And yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to upload the content so you can use it at your 10:15 slot. Please feel free. It's really important that you message if you have any reflections, anything that's working, anything that, that comes up for you. Those conversations are all part of the self-growth and learning. So I know I'm not there live to ask that in a Zoom space, but you can message me or send your information and your questions to Bon, who can send them on to me as well. But yeah, happy to engage in a conversation. It's just last week happened to be my daughter's leaving thing for her preschool. And this week we have family over from Canada. So a lovely pre-recorded sesh for you, and hopefully lots of lovely golden nuggets as always. The content has also been driven and selected by Bon. So I'm really looking forward to bringing you a topic that I think it's very hard for us all to avoid. I think, especially some of us looking back at last week's deep dive on rumination, our brain has this ability and this habit almost of comparing. So the topic today is called the comparison trap. And it says, let's look at understanding and overcoming the habit of comparing ourselves to others. And I think that that's like a perfect title for anything. We all need to remember that we are enough. And if anyone has ever come across like the theories and the concepts of quite she's world renowned British life coach called Marissa Peer. I think that her entire program is hinged on this concept that like we are enough. And I personally remember hearing that phrase, somebody telling me like you are enough just as you are. And at one point it really hit those like emotions and the heartstrings, because it was the first time I really started to find language to help me take a deep breath in this like world of, feeling like we need to be more, have more, look a certain way, act a certain way, when actually the goal is to unravel that and be like happy with, who we are and our uniqueness. So let's kind of unpack this. We're going to deep dive into this topic that impacts on every single one of us, like I said, and it is just comparison. We'll explore why we compare ourselves, what happens in the brain during this process, and the consequences of comparison. And most importantly, we need to always look at ways in which we can overcome these habits and lead more kind of fulfilling lives. And I'm sure we're all on this journey because there's something that we want to, improve or feel in the long run. So maybe, and I really hope that the content today inspires you. So, understanding comparison, the definition and nature of comparison is when we evaluate ourselves against others. This can be about various aspects such as success, appearance, achievements, relationships, and even small daily habits. According to studies, up to 10%, that's a lot, of our thoughts involve some form of comparison. That's a lot, I think, in terms of, think of a day and how many times in a day, if that's 10%, you know, it says, why do we compare? And there's a few. So one of the reasons we compare is social comparison theory. The social comparison theory was developed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954. And this theory suggested that individuals determine their social and personal worth based on how they stack up against others. So people constantly evaluating themselves and others in areas like attractiveness, wealth, intelligence, and overall success. And I put like this kind of, I don't know, gesture around success because I think success is such a, it's one of these phrases like we spoke about in terms of like the mindset on well-being Wednesday. It's the same kind of concept as failure. You know, what is success? What is failure? What are these words? What do they mean? And how do they differ between each of us? So just interesting, but we're still comparing ourselves against something that's not really measurable because it's different to each of us. But all of this comparison can lead to motivation, um, for improvement, but it can also result in feelings of dissatisfaction. Oh, I'm so sorry. I live really close to an airport. I'm gonna let that airplane pass, but where it's warm, I've left the windows open, so I apologize for the airplane in the background. But yeah, where it's warm, I'm sure you understand having that little bit of air coming through is good. But yeah, obviously you guys know anything in terms of comparing results in dissatisfaction, guilt, and even destructive behaviors like lying or even disordered eating. It's very common. Um, we also have a reasoning that would be called evolutionary perspective. So instead of the social comparison theory, evolutionary perspective is our ancestors needed to assess their status within their groups for survival. So a higher status often meant that they would have access to resources, mates, safety. And so there's this instinctual behavior has potentially been passed through generations. So knowing where we stand helps us navigate our social structures and increase our chances of thriving. So two perspectives. One is saying that like this is thoroughly, utterly ingrained in us from, that process of survival. There's so much to be said about that chapter of our lives when you think of like all the things we're learning about fight or flight response and, our reaction to like that saber-toothed tiger jumping out at us. That's actually not going to happen, but now we feel it for an email or, just a conversation with somebody. So just noticing like I think I say it in every single video message, one to one, like remember in all of this, you are human and all of the experiences are normal. Like there's nothing wrong. And what's beautiful is that you're doing the work. You're doing the work to learn yourself and find ways in which you can potentially move through comparison, rumination, looking at mindset, like the things we've been talking about this month. So cool. Well done, you. Another reason why we compare could lie in this next reasoning, and they call it cultural and societal influences, which I'm sure we'll all relate to. It goes without saying, but society and culture heavily influence our tendency to compare, especially this modern day and age where we have everything at our fingertips, media, advertising, social platforms. They just bombard us with ideals and standards, and they make comparison almost unavoidable. I find that like even, looking maybe for you guys it depends on like, kind of where you're at, but I look at our younger generations and anytime they are posting something or even like I have friends now we'll go out and we'll take a photo and they filter every single photo. But I think like it's just so powerful because if you break down the message in just having a filter, yes, it's kind of fun to turn yourself in a dog or whatever. Like I can see the silliness and the playfulness in that. But 90% of these sort of filters are now to make the face augmented in a new way. So the lips bigger, the skin more flawless, the cheeks more rosy, the cheekbones more whatever they're meant to be, or the skin to be the color in such country desires, and the dewiness of a beautiful makeup. And I just find it so incredible to think about the fact that these are subconscious messages kind of running through comparison when we're just looking at somebody's makeup or taking a photo through a filter. Subconsciously, we are comparing ourselves to somebody else and saying, like, we will look better if we have this filter on. So it might not be an example that directly links to you, but I'm just thinking about, like, our generations and even, like, something so simple that should be fun actually has these hidden messages that, like, you don't look as good as the other person who has these lips, etcetera, or, that Botox or whatever. But cultural norms dictate what is valued, and we measure ourselves against these benchmarks. So, for example, societal emphasis on physical appearance can lead to comparisons about body image driven by unrealistic standards by media. You can see there's a generation, and obviously, if anybody here has had any of these procedures, that's nothing. I'm a firm believer as we speak about these sorts of topics. If it makes you feel good and it's a healthy thing for your mindset, then you make your own choices. But we obviously are living in a generation where we have a lot of changes to our faces and our bodies, that aren't just a lip gloss. We're in the world of injections and full reconstructions, and a lot of those standards and are have been set by media. So it's interesting kind of how they do influence us, how there's now a job, and people are called influencers. So I guess we're just exploring this, like, cultural and societal influence on us to compare. It's even as simple as looking at someone in their home and thinking, I don't have things like that. I'll never have things like that, but forgetting that you have all your amenities around you and that your life is full and beautiful, whether you live in Beverly Hills or a very humble space, that's, your own or rented or families or whatever. So just remembering, like, comparison can make you feel not enough. But as we move through, I need you to remember that you are enough just as you are. This face, this body, this skin, this home, deep breaths, letting go of the anxieties of what you don't have or what you feel like you need. Just breathe. You are enough. So types of comparison. So we've looked at reasons. So just kind of a quick recap. Three reasons why we compare: social comparison theory, the evolutionary perspective, and cultural and societal influences. And now we're going to look at types of comparison. So it's suggested that there are two types of comparison. There's upward comparison, and this occurs when we compare ourselves to those we perceive as better off. While it can be motivating, it often leads to feelings of inadequacy and envy. Seeing a colleague get promoted might inspire us to work harder, but it also can sometimes make you feel less competent. Um, and I definitely think that I am I'm somebody who feels this sometimes. You can't not. Like they said, 10% of our thoughts as human beings in this day and age, 2024, are feeling this. So, deep breaths, and just remember that these are just thoughts, and thoughts are not true. They are just coming in, like ticker tape, like a leaf, or a stick, running down the stream. They're just passing by. They don't need to stay if you don't want them to. You also have then upward comparison is one type. We also have a downward comparison. And this is when we compare ourselves to those that we see as worse off. And it can temporarily boost your self esteem, but it can also lead to complacency, and a lack of personal growth. So, for instance, feeling better about our own situation, by comparing it to someone facing more significant challenges can sometimes prevent us from striving for improvement. Um, yeah, I just think the definitions are as they say. But I think it's really important to just sit for a minute and think about these comparisons. I think a little bit about, I'm in a situation at the minute where I really like my house. I really loved it when I bought it. It's great, but it's been a while. I have 2 small children, which I've mentioned before, so, it is not necessarily finished to the standard that I like, and there's, scuffs all on the walls and around the house and things that would not be there if I didn't have 2 toddlers. And both of my sister-in-laws, one is moving to a brand new build, and the other one's having every single room redone. Plus my brothers just, gutted all their back garden and put a pool in, and I can't help but look around and feel like, "Oh, I really wanna move," or, "I wanna add something," and I think that, like, reflecting on something small like that, there's, like, this comparison of, like, "Oh, well, if they're doing something, we should be in that place of, like, moving forward," or, all of whatever, but there is a sense of comparison, and there isn't it's not a jealousy, but it's a sense of feeling like inadequate or envy of like having that new space or yeah, so I just think that's something simple, and that might be my upward um comparison, in that space. um I also mentioned that we're going to look a little bit at the brain, which is always something that I find so compelling, and I think that we're living in a cool age where the work and the science on how our brain works is just going from strength to strength. I feel like we're on in like a new age of learning. University courses are like now all about neuroscience, and I'm just excited about where we're at. It'd be so cool to like go back to university. I think one day I'll do my doctorate, I hope. But yeah, I just find it's such an exciting time, and you guys being part of this program are right on the cusp of it. So well done you, like doing the learning about you, learning about your brain so that you can take a little bit more control over your feelings, of maybe not feeling enough. So, what is happening in the brain? First, these neural pathways. So, comparison activates several neural pathways. Imagine like I don't know, sometimes I imagine like a lightning bolt. um, and in the prefrontal cortex, it's responsible for complex thinking and decision making. And it's heavily involved in these processes. The brain's reward system, including the straight, I'm never really good at saying this word, the striatum. Bond can probably be better with that. Somewhere between my Canadian accent, it's a word that I've always like not been great at, but the striatum, it plays a role in our emotional responses elicited to comparison. So it's important just to note that like that word, the big S, it's all about your emotional response to something. And these neural pathways are formed, we think one way and then we think it again, and then we begin to create like habit and potentially some belief around those things. We also have in the brain this like like I love this chemical dopamine. Dopamine is created though, when you feel rewarded. So when you feel like you've tackled something or you've ticked something off your list, there's this like sense of achievement. So dopamine rewards, thinking about the brain, dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward, and is released when we perceive others as successful compared to others. So sorry, we perceive ourselves as successful compared to others. Conversely, when we feel we are lacking, dopamine levels drop, leading to feelings of dissatisfaction and inadequacy. For example, achieving a fitness goal similar to a friend's can boost dopamine and make you feel accomplished. So if you do compare, I really remember vividly being a kid, like comparing what I got on like a test result and feeling really crappy if I did lesser than this one girl. I don't know why we always compared because we would have been on a similar trajectory. And I'd always feel rubbish. But there was this sense like it almost feels wrong to say, but it is right. Like in terms of comparison, I felt really good if I got a higher grade. And that's because I was getting like a dopamine boost. And I feel like we get caught in this false sense of dopamine sometimes because on social media, if you like write a post and you get lots of likes, you write another one and nobody likes it, or you get these like dopamine surges and drops. And I think, you know, it's powerful because when we do compare, if you are doing better, you will have this like chemical reaction, brain to body in terms of dopamine. I always think of D dopamine. I think of the word drive, the D in the D. It's all about that drive, and reaching those milestones. And then you have the amygdala and stress. So the amygdala is the part of the brain which processes your emotions, such as fear and anxiety, and it becomes active during negative comparison. So this activation can lead to heightened stress levels and anxiety, contributing to a cycle of negative emotions. For example, constantly feeling behind peers in career progress can cause chronic stress and anxiety. We live in a world where we do not always feel enough compared to others. You might be looking at what one person has versus what you have and wanting that, but actually forgetting that at one point you wanted what you actually are sat having, or forgetting that you have everything you need and more. If we really mindfully looked around and took check, so remembering as we move through this, like that lovely affirmation, you are enough, might support. Um, so yeah, I think that's what's happening to the brain. We've got these neural pathways being formed. Dopamine is being, created through, the highs and lows of that dopamine hit from reaching and attaining goals or not, and activating that amygdala and that stress response comes from comparison. There are a few scientific studies to back up what we're talking about. So, uh, I kind of mentioned above a little bit of social media because I don't know about you, I often call it, or I don't know whether it's coined the phrase doom scrolling. Um, I don't know, not all of you would be like maybe social media people, but there's some of us that might just like have a little like troll through what's going on Instagram or TikTok or whatever when you like Facebook. Um, and studies on social media, research has shown that the frequent use of social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram are associated with increased levels of anxiety and depression. And this is due to the constant exposure to the curated, idealized versions of other people's lives, prompting continuous comparison. For instance, seeing photos of luxurious vacations or happy relationships can make you feel inadequate. And we forget like 90% of people aren't going to sit and film themselves crying on their worst day. Or I think it's very rare that you see somebody like going online and saying, like, hey, I'm feeling really anxious right now. Or, if they are, it's, you know, it's really rare to find. So I want you to think about that. Like, what is your social media diet? What is it that you're taking in? And could you, if you are somebody who flicks and maybe doom scrolls, I'm definitely, with you sometimes. Like, sometimes I find it like numbing out is a good thing to just flick and have some quiet time. But could you go through your account and start deleting like groups and people that you're following and companies that aren't bringing healthy thoughts? And then could you go back and follow positive affirmations, great mindset, I don't know, something that feels good. So thinking about like adding something healthy to your social media diet rather than looking at, people who you're going like, I want to look like that, I want to be like that. Are there things that deep down are unhealthy to be you know stuck in comparison with? I think it's really important to do that because, like we said, it genuinely does. It's scientifically proven that it can increase anxiety and depression because you feel lesser, and all we're doing is reiterating that thought and that neuroplasticity in the brain. Everything that you're looking at is telling you that you're not where that person is, and that's where you should be, or you're going, I want to be like that, instead of actually sitting back going, I'm all right who I am, and who you are is perfect and unique, and it's all we've got, so why not embrace it, you know? about, I keep coming back to that point, like you are enough, and you've got to remember that. Take a deep breath as you say that. There's also been neurological research shows studies using functional MRI have demonstrated that when individuals engage in social comparison, there is significant activity in our brain regions associated with the reward processing, self evaluation, and emotional regulation. These findings underline the deeply ingrained nature of comparison in our neural circuits. For example, brain scans show increased activity in areas related to reward when people perceive themselves as superior in a comparison. So, comparison makes you feel great, and comparison can make you feel crappy. And when we're on this like constant on the lookout for feeling good, then that means that we're constantly looking for comparison because we feel good when potentially it is an upward comparison. And we feel rubbish when we are on a downward comparison. And I think that that's really important to reflect upon. Um, yeah, I think I think just thinking about the fact that our brains believe what we think, and there is a rewarding process in there if you, I don't know, achieve whatever it is that you think that you need to achieve, but sometimes you've gotta ask yourself, like, "Why is it that I want to achieve that?" So, I'll use the example of something like, I don't know, maybe not everyone knows who the Kardashians are, but the Kardashian family, I know it's maybe not the most scientific example, but they had really coined the really tiny waist and the really like peachy pear-shaped body with the big nice booty. And the amount of people that have watched that and the comparison has then created a thought and a belief saying that that is what the perfect body is and that's what I want to achieve. And therefore you have all sorts of people who have had surgery to get that body, or when you think back to like 80s and 90s, it was all about, being super, super thin. And that, there was like an infamous quote from Kate Moss saying, like, you'll never feel better than the feeling of feeling skinny. And I remember that being really raw. And all of these are body image things, pressures from, society, that are just thoughts and opinions, not true, but for some of us make us feel inadequate if we are not at whatever society's saying. And we have to really question because things change so much over time, is comparison is not making us happy. We need to kind of get to the root and start believing that we are enough. So, consequences of comparison, obviously, there's lots of negative ones. The first is the emotional impact. So, comparison often leads to feelings of inadequacy, sometimes jealousy and low self esteem. This emotional toll can be particularly harsh when we perceive ourselves as falling short of kind of societal and personal standards. For example, comparing our achievements to those of highly successful peers can make us feel less worthy. And sometimes I spiral into a comparison with my brother, and the life that he's, living because it's so different to mine. And I always think back to like my sister-in-law. She always says, like, don't believe what's on social media. She posted these amazing photos on Thanksgiving this year. And I was like, oh my God, your Thanksgiving looked like idyllic. She was like, no, there was arguments. The kids weren't great. Everybody was like falling out and it was not at all what we see. So you've got to kind of let go of these feelings of inadequacy and ask the questions, start evaluating, like, is this a true picture of what that potentially was like? But yeah, so the emotional impact, we don't want to feel less worthy anymore. So we need to reflect on that. Comparison can and often has impacted on mental health and created like some sort of worry and issues there. So persistent negative comparison is linked to mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and chronic stress. The constant state of dissatisfaction can erode our sense of well being and happiness. For example, continuously feeling inferior to others can lead to that sense of feeling like I feel depressed. And there's also behavioral consequences. So, to measure up to others, we might engage in unhealthy behaviors. And this includes overworking, excessive dieting, or financial irresponsibility to maintain a certain lifestyle or image. Such behaviors can further exacerbate stress, um, anxiety. For example, taking on too much work to match a peer's career success can lead to burnout, that sort of stuff. I think that it's powerful to live your own life, know what fills your cup, know what doesn't fill your cup, and really reflect sometimes being like, Am I comparing when I don't need to? Like, is this rumination? Are these thoughts something that are helping or hindering me? There are some positive consequences to comparison, though. Some people find a really great sense of motivation from them. So, on the flip side, comparison can sometimes motivate us to improve ourselves. And I would say that there is a level of that. Like, I remember feeling very motivated to do well in school because I remember looking and comparing myself to like adults when I was younger who were living on a certain street, doing some really great things, or I remember looking up to people who traveled and thinking like that's a comparison that motivated me to make those decisions and inspired me. So sometimes it is positive, like seeing someone else's success can inspire us to set and achieve our own goals, and they can push us to strive for betterment. For example, friends' fitness achievements might motivate you to adopt healthier habits, or you might read reviews and see that other people have like got a lot from certain programs. So you think actually I might have a go at that, and I'm going to try and like get to that same point that that person's just said that they got to. So it can be helpful. Also, I think that positive consequences are one of them self-reflection. And I think self-reflection is something that we need to, maybe build into our time. But yeah, self-reflection, the comparison can prompt some introspection. So by evaluating ourselves against others, we may identify areas in our lives that need improvement or change. And this can lead to personal growth and development. It could be good, for example, recognizing a need for better work-life balance after comparing with a more balanced peer. So I remember like when I first started working, I was like in the rat race. I remember I took great pride in being the first one in the building and the last one out. But that became something that was very unhealthy for me. But I saw somebody else doing that and I wanted to be recognized in that way. And actually that was healthy in the sense that I was motivated, but unhealthy in the sense that there wasn't work-life balance. But when I saw somebody else with work-life balance, I was able to see that you could have both worlds. So seeing and comparing is not always a bad thing. But if you are somebody like me who does, the very human thing of comparing, you'll probably have both experiences, the good ones and the ones that make us feel not so good. So, overcoming negative comparison. Some of the strategies are self awareness. And the first step in breaking the cycle of comparison is recognizing that you are doing it. So, I want you to kind of imagine that you're listening to your thoughts like a fly on the wall. If you're flicking through social media, be aware of what you're looking at, what those like subconscious messages are. If you start to feel in your head like, I need to go buy this, or I don't have the money for this, but I need it, like ask yourself, go back and being like, whoa, 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 why are you fixated on this comparison? Why do you need this in your life? Do you actually need this in your life? Where are these thoughts coming from? And so self awareness is number one. Pay attention to moments when you compare yourself to others and acknowledge this instant with no judgment. So you're not going to go, oh, I have to stop. Just acknowledge it and then see and check in and be like, is this like healthy motivation or unhealthy? Is this making me feel more anxious? Is it making me feel more depressed? Or is this like spurring me into, something great? And, once you name it, you recognize it, you can start to move through it. The next is focus on your journey. So everyone's path is unique. So focus on your path. And I find that really helpful. You've got to sit back and think like my work, my path, my skill set is all relevant. We're all here to make a difference on this planet. You're all making a difference already. No matter what it is that you do, but you are all part of this for like some big cool picture. And I think that when you think of your path is unique, everyone else's path is unique. Trusting that you're where you should be, that sometimes helps. I love this quote or affirmation. It says, trust the timing of your life. But it says, concentrate on your progress and your achievements, no matter how small they may seem. Celebrate your milestones and understand that success is personal and subjective. And that's what we were saying at the beginning. It's like the word failure. There's no such thing if you don't let it be. It's just growth. And same here with success. What is success? And why are we comparing if the definition is so broad? For instance, appreciate your own career progress instead of comparing it to others. So you've got that. Next is limiting your social media. I think that there's so much to be said to this. I definitely could probably do more of this myself because I do have a little flick through probably from time to time, but it's important here that social media can be a real trigger for comparison, whether it is just comparing without even realizing it, looking back at new and old friends and what they're doing and what they're up to. It can lead to positive or negative feelings. So I think limit your time on the platforms and be mindful of the content that you consume. Follow accounts that inspire and uplift you, like I said earlier, and rather than those that provoke negative feelings. Spend less time on Instagram and more on hobbies that make you happy. See if you can find some time to go out in the garden and log off your phone. Don't be afraid to introduce like unplugged time. Totally put your phone down and walk away. And you can set your phone so it'll tell people like, I'm unable to answer the phone right now. Please leave a message, things like that, so that you are able to set those boundaries for yourself. But really check out your diet. What are you looking to? Who are you talking to? What are you flicking through? And what story is it telling you? What's the story? What's the underlining message in all of that? Yeah. Gratitude helps as well. Gratitude practices, I think they're so simple. I'm a big believer of gratitude. I think that there's so much in it. I could probably do a whole workshop or a day on just gratitude. We can do Wellbeing Wednesday on it. But gratitude is just giving thanks, and giving thanks is mindful, and mindfulness means that you're in the present and you're in the real, and it's the truth. So regularly practicing gratitude is one of the things that will support you with your well-being and your ability to sift through this feeling of comparison. You need to remind yourself of what you have. I am grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful for the food in my fridge. I'm grateful for the cup of tea and coffee every morning. I'm grateful for whatever it is, small or big, running water. I'm grateful for today's opportunity. I'm grateful for my nap. Like whatever it is, just break it down. Um, and what gratitude does is it shifts your focus from what you lack to what you possess, what you actually have, fostering a positive outlook. For example, writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day is really cool. You can even get on Amazon, like, uh, you can type in gratitude journals and it just prompts you to write those sorts of lists. It's pretty great. Like I said, there's so much in it, so many powerful aspects of writing it down, thinking it. I often lie in bed at nighttime and just think, "Oh, what was the best part of my day?" Or "What am I super grateful for today?" And it does help to calm the mind, set the brain up for positive neuroplasticity, and try to short circuit and cut through all of the rubbish thoughts and feelings of inadequacy. So yeah. Another one is actually like thinking about who you surround yourself with. I think engaging with people who uplift you and discourage constant comparison are great. Positive influences can help maintain a healthier perspective and boost your self-esteem. So spend time with friends who celebrate you and encourage your growth, not people that pull you down. Set realistic goals is a really good one to get that dopamine hit again, because comparison often fits into this. But creating personal, achievable goals, something just for you, not because somebody else did it. Saying, actually, for me, I would like to try and do a yoga class this month. Great. One, cool. If you go to two, amazing. But maybe set those little goals, break them down into small, manageable steps, and celebrate your progress and recognize each step. Celebrate the process. For example, set yourself a goal. Keep saying the idea of fitness, but I don't know, maybe it's different. Maybe it's that you've been stuck in a job that you do not feel fulfilled in. So maybe finally you sit down and update your CV, and you want to do that by blank. And you can ask blank to help you, whatever it is, go away and set some time aside to do those things and make those changes, and it will feel great and lighter and happier. Some practical exercises, such as mindfulness, meditation, journaling, positive affirmation, they can all work. So, I'm just trying to think here about, firstly, mindfulness meditation. That is just thinking about being in the present. So, I've taken you through some of this in our last session, but grounding is a really great idea. So I like to think about like sight, smell, taste, touch, hear, that kind of thing. So I'll always touch like the surface or feel my feet on the ground or feel the table or the sides. And I'll just think like, okay, like grounding is like, what can you touch? Like where are you? Where are you sitting? What's around you? Feeling that sense of gratitude for the hands, the feet, the body's ability to move, the roof over your head, the four walls, the extras that are around you, that sort of thing. Thinking about what you can smell, if there's anything you can taste in your mouth from your last meal, feeling grateful for that food, grateful for this human experience. There's so much in it. And if you wanted to check out on the module that I helped write, um, I believe it's Opening Gratitude, which is probably my most favorite mindful meditation. I might highly, highly recommend doing that one. Maybe go and find it if you can. If not, it is on my YouTube channel, recorded as well. So please take some time. It's just beautiful. Journaling is amazing. So I'm going to get you to get out you can use your phones in your notes, or you can use a pen and paper if you've been taking notes. And first, I want you to think about this. Can you maybe take a bit of time to just write? It could be bullet points or a mind map. But I just want you to write comparison in the middle or compare or something like that. And then around the mind map, like any words or feelings or things, thinking about your personal experience with comparison. Like, can you identify maybe through the chat, like anybody in particular that you do in real life, maybe compare to quite a lot? And then from that, maybe another little line saying, like, is it positive or is it negative? Maybe thinking about social media, another little spoke off your mind map or a bullet point, what is your social diet? Flick through your phone if you want and see like what are you looking at, you know, um, that sort of thing. What products are you drawn to? That's a really interesting one. Sometimes the products, if they're all in a different area, like I don't know, whatever, it might make you realize like there's a feeling of comparison that you're kind of working towards there. So once you've done that, take some time. Yeah, pause the video if you want as well, just to take some more time and just reflect. I've got a few questions around your mind map. Um, what instances do you feel you have or you do compare yourself to others to? And ask yourself maybe if there's any underlying reasons for it. And this can help you understand and address the root causes of your behavior. Yeah, writing about your feelings when you notice you're comparing yourself to others is a great one as well. So maybe there's a day and you're like, I really feel inadequate, or why do I not want to be around that person? And go home because it does create anxiety. Yeah, I think it's quite important to let it out on paper, in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, journaling is amazing. And then I'm gonna get you to do one more thing. I would like for you to do the activity we said earlier. Can you take a moment right now and write down three things that you are grateful for? What are three things that you are grateful for? So, having a little look at that, what are three things you're grateful for? If you add more, you can. It can be anything. Yeah, I think we spoke about this in one other session this week, but something simple like coffee, if you're finding a hard time, just look around. It could be having a bed, like anything. Keep it simple. Three things that you're grateful for. And then you can just add to them and make a really long list. Maybe see if later on, before bed or in the morning, can you add one or two things? Have your list around if you want. Maybe it's on your phone in your notes, but see if you can add that in. That'd be really, really great. The next one is positive affirmations. So, positive affirmations are great. I use them a lot and I use it to create like healthier neuroplasticity. There's so much around the power of a positive affirmation. So, I want you to maybe write on a post it note or something like, I am enough, and just whack it on your laptop where you work, whack it on your mirror, whatever it is, wherever you're feeling your comparison gets creeps up, put it somewhere on your fridge so that you know that you are enough. Another thing I want you to write, especially in where you're at right now in this program, I'd love for you to write this one down. I am proud of my progress. I am proud of my progress. I am proud of my growth. I am proud of my growth. I am enough. I am proud of my progress and I am proud of my growth. These affirmations said over and over and over will help you rewire your thinking and boost your self esteem. Just keep repeating over and over and over. There's so many benefits of this one. I also like this kind of three-step one. I am enough, I have enough, I do enough. I am enough, I have enough, I do enough. Very, very important to kind of maybe throw those in, especially when we are comparing about what we own or where we are at in our lives. I am enough, I have enough, and I do enough. You are doing your best every day, I'm sure. So deep breaths and keep going. You are enough, you have enough, you do enough. Write it down, say it over and over and over. So yeah, just coming back to it, the comparison trap, understanding and overcoming this habit of comparing yourselves to others is something, we all can reflect on, work on. Maybe get a little journal out next time you are comparing. Notice it and call it what it is. Hey, I'm in a little bit of a comparison trap. Or get home and be like, maybe why do I feel inadequate today? What have I compared? What is this human feeling that I've engaged in? And is this truth? Is this something I need to be aspiring to? Is this a realistic goal? Is this a goal that's definitely something I need for me? Is this going to make me feel, confident and my best self, or whatever your definition of happy or successful is? Just asking yourself those questions. And if you are feeling overwhelmed or ruminating in any of these like comparisons, just go back, take some deep breaths, um, check in, maybe do some mindfulness work, maybe write all about it, or maybe just come back to those affirmations. I am enough, I have enough, I do enough. I am proud of my progress. I am proud of my growth. I'm proud that I'm on the path to, getting better. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. That kind of language is what you're after. I wish you an amazing rest of the week. Any questions about the deep dive, chuck them mine or Bon's way. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Peace and love this Friday, team, wherever you are in the world. I'm just sending you big love. Deep, slow breaths. Maybe let's finish with that. Inhale, nice and slow. Exhale, reminding yourself you are enough. Peace and love, team. Take care. Bye.